Welcome everyone for joining Darrel and I here tonight for this fireside chat. Really, what we're here to do is celebrate the achievement and accomplishments of the 5 startups that were a part of the SSI cohort, because today they are really moving into the future of their companies. And what does that future hold for these? It's really innovating around self-sovereign identity. And what that means is that they're innovating ahead of regulations. They are innovating in a way that can remove usernames and passwords, but more importantly, these companies and those in our SSI community are building the generation of technology for the future. Really what they're doing is they're building identity the way it should have been built from day one. And that is what you'll see showcased today. So tonight we want to talk about the future and what it holds for digital identity and, more importantly, self-sovereign identity. I don't have a crystal ball to take a look into that, but I have something better, and that's Darrel O'Donnell, the CTO of CU Ledger, who's here to help us see what that future is and how it applies to the problems that we're trying to solve today. So to make things interesting for Darrel, I decided to ask him the most difficult question first. I think that'll make it interesting for the audience too.
Sure.
Okay, Darrel, here's the question. How do you explain self-sovereign identity?
First off, I try not to with our customers. We try to explain that it's a more natural way of sharing who you are digitally. Whether you are a person, an organization, or a thing, it's really hard to introduce yourself, to have a conversation in a digital realm when you're going through somebody, or if somebody owns that conversation. I don't know how good that is.
Okay, so take that explanation and apply it to a problem that you're trying to solve at CU Ledger.
Sure, so CU Ledger, we serve credit unions. We're owned by credit unions. It's kind of this weird sort of VC kind of thing, but it's owned by credit unions. So our customers actually are our investors. So we have an advantage that way. One of the things that's happened in the credit union industry, they're small. In the banking world, they're tiny. They have all these different systems. When you log in through a web browser, when you log in through your mobile app, if you apply for an auto loan, that's another system. Service your mortgage, that's another system. Somewhere behind that, you may actually have to log in many times with different passwords, or they may have tied things in knots to show you one single username and password. What this means is they can't do anything. They can't authenticate consistently, and if you call in, if you phone in, you're in a whole different realm. And they want to know if they can approve, say, $80,000 wire transfer. So they ask you, what's your mother's maiden name? When did your favorite dog die? When did you give up on life? Well, not quite those questions, but you get the idea. To the point that we actually treat members of credit unions like criminals. They do it to protect the member. They do it to protect the credit union. Instead, right now what they do, working with us, we've actually gone through and we're doing these wire transfer approvals. It says, are you talking to the call center right now? Yes. Which a funny thing happened. We know the credit union wants to know that Johnny Stiles is transferring money. What we didn't understand is that Johnny Stiles wanted to make sure he was really talking to the credit union. That was a realization, like, it's two ways. Both sides are confused all the time.
So you have a lot of choices for identity solutions today. We don't have to go over all of them. Why did CU Ledger pick SSI?
I think the credit unions have tried every digital identity technology that's ever been. And no matter how big the federated identity circle was, you were always left outside on some aspect. The biggest problem the credit unions had is that typically their vendors controlled the identity side. So the member relationship really is the biggest asset that credit union has. It was managed by a third party who had no vested interest in making this an awesome experience. So there was nothing out there until we had a common place to go, in this case, the Sovrin network, where we could anchor truth. We had nowhere to go.
So I know that you're in the middle of conducting a pilot. Can you talk to us a bit more about what that pilot is?
Yes, we actually just finished 3 of them. These are production pilots. What that means is in the credit union banking world, it's a pretty important milestone because they're actually hitting real live banking cores. Meaning there's real money there are real people, and we're doing real activities. The number one use case, all 3 were are what they call high-value, high-risk transactions. Very small number of these transactions, but these are, one credit union had wire transfers, average value $53,000, ranging from $1,000 to $800,000. They had no way to reliably know that it really was you. So they would send you down to the bank, do an ATM transaction, have you use your PIN, call back in. It's like, I just took out $20. That was security. Instead, now they're sitting there basically saying, okay, I need just to authenticate you, and boom. Are you wiring $80,000 to the credit union in Spokane, Washington? Yes. So it became a lot simpler.
Now, this is where the startups get to benefit from your wisdom and your experience going through these pilots. What are the lessons learned that you have to share today? Because we know time is crucial for these startups. The moment that they leave this program, they have high expectations and they also want to achieve success. So what can you do to help them avoid maybe some missteps or things that you've learned along the way that you think they should know now?
Yeah, I come from the startup world, so I was kind of a shock to the system of the credit unions. Number one, don't lead with SSI. Believe in it. They don't care. They will care in time, but don't lead with that. That's not going to make you a sale. Make it as simple as possible and solve their business problem and do the right thing underneath using SSI. I wouldn't try to be pure. If you need to put a cloud-based wallet that's controlled by you, as opposed to someone else, it's okay. You'll get to the point where it's the point of control's in the right place. Make it simple, especially on the developer side. If you have an API or an SDK for embedding on the mobile side, the simpler you can make it, the better you're off you're going to be. We've had a credit union receive an API at noon. By Monday, they called the meeting on Tuesday, showed their internal team. By Thursday, they had their business pilot approved, and it already started working. They had a whole bunch of user experience work. That's because our API has two calls: onboard and authenticate. That's it. It's pretty easy to approach. That simplicity, though, means that every single developer we bumped into can touch this. Our world of SSI is really arcane. It's hard. If you take somebody and throw them into the indie code base, they are 6 to 8 weeks for proficiency. Who has that kind of time? We had 2 hours, and we had progress. If you can do that, you will, I think, increase your customer pool by over 1,000 times. Because no one has 6 to 8 weeks to practice on this stuff. The believers do. That help?
Yes. And some in the room here are considering or looking at investments in the space of identity, security, privacy solution, infrastructure plays. What are your thoughts around the future of SSI in the landscape from an investment standpoint, but also whether companies in their portfolio should be looking at SSI as a way to position themselves ahead of the curve?
Yeah, so the SSI space itself, I think in time it'll probably get another name, but the space itself is early days. It is going to, every time we do any kind of analysis, I come out of both startups, was in the VC space, I still advise some venture capitalists. We're looking on a 3, 5, 10-year horizon. There are some industries going to be completely rocked. If you look at where digital identity is right now and where it's being used or it's not being used in IoT really at all. And where it's being used, we've really, what I've used the technical term, we've really done stupid. There's a lot of weird stuff we've done because we had to. We didn't need to put usernames, passwords, and multi-factor, and what's your mother's maiden name. There was never a design choice. We hacked it in. Every single industry we work in can be touched by fixing and putting a layer of trust that we're doing with SSI, but also the ability to hand trusted information around means that I don't need to do API integration. Here's one to think about. IBM can only do so much direct deposit information. They can only integrate directly with so many different banks. The biggest customers in the world, GM, IBM, can only integrate with, say, the top 3,000 banks. What happens if you're 3001? It means you can't offer the same services, and they will never do the API-based integration. They may not have an API, but if you can take a verifiable credential, it's called a payroll deposit credential, a few fields, carry that in, every single one of these people can do that in seconds. It's going to change things. Inside, if you're moving data around and you're stuck with purely an API-based approach, if you have awesome engineers, maybe you don't need it. But when those engineers leave and or you forget how tired they are, they move on to different projects and it's a 7-year-old API, if you can share trusted information, it's going to change how information flows in your organization. So I think it's powerful all around.
Why did you decide then to dedicate, really in this case, your career, your time, your future in developing SSI?
So in my first 2 startups, I probably spent somewhere between 15 to 20% of our engineering time just on identity. We were in a specific space. We had to deal with the fact that I may be Darrel, but I'm Darrel acting in a particular role. In this case, it was called Senior Watch Officer, for example, on the military side. That's a weird security paradigm. That cost me a lot of money. I've spent, I don't know how much of my own money, investors' money, clients' money, on the bare table stakes of just getting identity into play. When SSI came out, it took me about 3 months to wrap my head around it. This is prior to Sovrin existing. I was like, no, they did figure that part. That's not a problem anymore. After about 3 months, I'm like, okay, I've never been as excited about any technology ever. And I'm probably getting more excited.
Well, that's a perfect time for us to move the audience for questions. I've been unable to stump Darrel tonight. So I open it up for anyone in the audience to ask some questions and see what Darrel has to say. Anna has a microphone, so if you raise your hand.
I can speak loudly.
Okay.
What was it about credit unions and that particular use case that made you decide to pursue that? Was it personal history, or was there something about the use case itself?
No, it wasn't personal history. I grew up in Ontario, Canada, where I would not be a typical credit union customer. A couple things happen. So you look at any industry that's going to change, you need to have industry players who want to play together. The banking industry is where blockchain really got excited, right? They've looked at all these use cases, they figured out this is what I want to do, and then the knives came out. They don't like each other, they want to kill each other. Credit unions are the first place I've ever been where you have competitors, ostensibly, sitting across the table, happily, having deep business discussions, having a drink. Next morning, no knives. It's like, what's going on? No, they're not. They actually care about their members more, and they're willing to. They also, here's a business problem. They're too small to do it by themselves, so they typically do pool resources. So it's been a really neat group. And I also look at it this way: is it? I won't report. I really truly hate writing reports about digital wallets because everyone was waving this digital wallet thing around as the savior, and it's not. But I don't trust myself to back up a wallet. I don't. I need someone to help me on that. Who? A credit union would be a pretty damn good place for me to put stuff that's important to me, keep my stuff safe. That's what they do. Also, they're not for profit. They're there for their members. They're owned by their members. So it's been an amazing introduction to the credit union space.
So because of the culture of the credit unions, it seems like it's naturally inclined to allow for innovation. How do you see this innovation impacting the larger fintech space?
Greg and I were talking a little bit about this earlier. There has to be a first mover. There has to be someone who goes first. One of the things we're very careful about at CU Ledger is we don't want to raise reasons to say no. It's a regulated industry, highly regulated. So we did a payment pilot, for example, and everyone's thinking, okay, you want to use R3 Corda? Yeah, we did that. They're like, you want to use Ripple? I'm like, no. I'm like, well, it's fast, it's instantaneous, it's cheapest. I'm like, yeah, but it freaks people out. I'm working on identity over here. I don't want to freak people out with how I'm paying. How about we use Swift? I can fly a plane with a bag of money faster than Swift can move money around. But it's totally normal to the credit union. So we innovate in these little places and stuff like that, work on the identity piece, move money across Swift so that when Ripple is normal, I replace it, put it in, and we just keep going. So credit unions are neat that way. They're innovative, but don't push too fast, because they freak out.
Let's go out to the audience here to see if we have more questions for you. Yes, Jordan.
Yeah, so a question for you about, you're talking about your specific use case and got the banking sector. But everyone I think in this room is interested in this going, mainstream, right? Do you see a path? Is it going to be through the enterprise? Is it going to take governments? Is it going to take startups? What are the forces that you see that will take this mainstream?
I think there need to be enough times when you're using a self-sovereign identity-enabled solution, whether it be a credit union, whether it be a government that has moved its driver's license into a self-sovereign identity-capable one, a corporate registration that knows that you're a director of the corporation, therefore have these particular rights because you've got a delegation credential in your hand. You need to have a bunch of these things, and then once they start to overlap, whether that is, perhaps in the state of Arizona, we have Desert Financial is a big supporter of Sovrin. They're an investor in us. They could influence the DMV. They could influence the university that they sponsor the stadium for. You got a microcosm going, someone's going to say, I want that too. Because nobody wants to blaze that trail. I mean, some people do want to blaze trails, but they're very, very rare. Once they see a couple examples of, well, why wouldn't I do that? It's cheap, it's faster, it's more secure. It also stops government from overreach, to your big brother comment, Greg. So I think there's going to be some spots that just kick off. I hope.
Yes.
I have an additional question on government, because I'm a member of the California GovOps Blockchain Working Group.
Okay.
And I'm actually leading the conversation on digital identity for the state of California. And so to your comment, sort of tossing it right back to you on government, I have to think that, depending on the approach, I know that we're all hopeful in this group to be leading the conversation more on the vanguard side and being bold and even provocative to some extent from a state legislature standpoint on looking at this particular foundational block. It is a foundational block, and we need this for a lot of different things. I know you're talking about practical advising, don't lead with that. Have the vision, but don't lead with it. But we'd like to think on the state legislature side that we can shape the conversation to lead with that, and not necessarily say we're going to get there and let's kind of put that sort of ancillary to what we're doing. What would you say to that?
I would say that California is already pushing the frontiers on the privacy legislation. I would still say don't lead with SSI. I would say lead with, we need to put the credential in the hand of our citizens so they can use it. They can use it in a privacy respecting way. They can use it in a way that we can't track. You put those in place, there is only SSI. So you let the conditions down. You take a look at BC government. BC government and Ontario government, they're doing corporate credentials right now. Because in Canada, we have a lot of privacy freak out. I mean, you talk about a driver's license, everyone freaks out. So they do a corporate registration credential, which is exactly the same technology as they have on their digital service card. Now they're putting a page up that says, give me a verifiable credential that I can use. So they're baby stepping in with John Jordan, who's a huge supporter. He's in government. He says, I like to do this kind of work without activating the white blood cells of government. Which he's brilliant that way, because he's like, by the way, it's already done. So I would definitely, you're going down the right path.
Yeah.
And John Jordan is the kind of person that I've seen a lot of innovators, like hardcore, facing a jungle of madness. He's naturally just reaching down for a machete and he's going in. And if you want to follow him, he's there. That's a really dangerous place to be, but following behind and watching what they're doing is awesome. Or grabbing a machete yourself and running it.
Yeah, I think there are those of us as members of the group that I don't know about machete, I don't know that I would call it that, but I do think that we're excited about being a little bit more bold in the vision and saying we have an opportunity to lay the foundation for something that is really transformative going forward.
And save yourself an amazing amount of cost.
Well, we have time for one more question. I saw that you had a question here.
So if we can assume SSI is broadly adopted, what new business models can we potentially see in an SSI-enabled world?
You might have stopped me. I look at the how do I just operate? How do I just take care of day-to-day stuff? And I have these agents that are doing it for me, and I don't have to worry about it. I know they're taking care of me, and I own them. As opposed to hiring somebody who's going to do stuff. The new business models, I mean, we're looking in the C-Ledger realm, we're tied into payments, we're tied into loans and all that stuff. But what's going to be possible in 5 years? I honestly don't know.
Yeah, and where I sit in the vantage point, we see business models emerging around KYC, employment verification, loyalty programs, seamless travel experience, but all of it has to go with monetizing the exchange of the credentials through those journeys. I have a bunch of lists of different business models that we start seeing emerging. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up because Darrel and I are simply the warm-up back here. And the real show is about to begin, and that's with our 5 startups who are celebrating
I'm
tonight.
looking forward to that.
Thank you.